Ben and Matt, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm super pumped to talk to you guys about everything that you guys are doing. Matt, like I said before this, congrats on getting married, which is
Thank
really
you.
a huge milestone in
Woo!
life for anyone doing it. Exactly. And then Ben, yeah, thanks for reaching out to even just say cool episode. So that's why I was like, hey, if you want to be on, let's do this. I know you guys have a lot of history in the e-commerce world, and I run an agency and we deal with a lot of probably the same or similar things. So I'll let you guys kind of introduce yourselves one by one and let us know what you guys do, and we'll take it from there.
Awesome. Well, Z, thank you so much for having us. What an honor to be on the podcast, and I'm so sorry that my beard is not even anywhere competitive with your beard. So
You'll get there. You'll get
I
there.
just won't do anything to it, and we'll have to do episodes every 6 months, and we'll just see how long it takes to catch up. So
I'm all
okay,
about it. We'll make a beard series of that.
we'll make a beard series. We'll go get Bandholtz on there and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm Matt Schlicht. I'm CEO and one of the 3 co-founders at Octane.ai. I grew up in Southern California. Went to high school down there. Got kicked out of high school for hacking the computers. Tricked my way back into high school, and then I graduated in 2006. And this was like MySpace was still around, Facebook was starting to boom, YouTube was like just starting to become a thing. And like everybody worshiped Google, and I like found out like, oh, Google has like so many employees, this is insane. I hadn't growing up, I actually didn't have access to the internet or computer until I was like 12, because of like a weird school I went to. And so I was just like, I couldn't get enough of the internet. It was just like crazy to me. And so instead of going to college, I was like, I need to jump on this right now. Screw college. I need to just, start working in startups in some capacity, move to Silicon Valley. At 19, joined a company called Ustream, which at the time was doing live video, almost like a YouTube for live video. Now everybody has that. And at the time, nobody had live video. We had Obama during his campaign. We had Snoop Dogg smoked weed live on video, which was like at the time, like
Yeah.
absolute insanity, because you were like, is he really doing that?
Right.
And then I led product there. And so at a tech company, that means that I was responsible for the future of how the product worked, how the design worked, how the features worked, how do we make it go more viral. We ended up raising $100 million, and then it was acquired by IBM for a considerable amount of money. After that, I managed Little Wayne's Digital for a couple of years with a buddy of mine. We got a Guinness World Records, beat Oreos out for that one. I've worked with probably almost every major rapper that you could think of, as like a weird little side note. I took a company through Y Combinator, which is like a very well-known kind of startup
Yep.
incubator where they backed like Dropbox and Airbnb and Coinbase. Learned a lot there. And then in 2015, got super interested in messaging apps. And specifically, I'd visited, now my wife, but at the time my girlfriend, I went to China in 2015 with her and her family. They're from China. And I saw how WeChat was being used, and a predominant way for businesses to communicate with customers. You get a cab, you order, you look at a recipe, they follow up with you with offers. Like everything was done through this messaging app. And in the United States, nothing like that was happening. And so in 2016, Facebook announced that you could build chatbots basically on top of Facebook Messenger. And I just thought that it made so much sense that the same way that businesses had been leveraging automation on email, that they would need to do the same thing with automated conversations. And we started with Facebook Messenger. Over the years, we moved to SMS. We raised money from the same investors that backed, Snapchat and a bunch of other really big brands. And then now we've kind of moved out of just messaging on conversational apps to actually powering messaging on a bunch of thousands of Shopify stores. And our primary focus in the world is to be the technology stack that humanizes the online shopping experience and enables you to provide a personalized experience to the customer. And then carry that on through all your marketing channels. And there's so much we can go into that. But I will let Ben give his intro, and that's mine.
I love
Over
it.
to you, Ben. And I've known
Thanks,
Ben for
Matt.
like over 10 years. And we
I,
met.
I'm gonna get into that because with 3 co-founders, I'm really curious how you come to that same ball of love for some crazy technology like that at the time. So that's really awesome.
We can go deep into that one. So, hello everyone. I'm Ben. I'm the president and co-founder of Octane.ai. My original claim to fame in Silicon Valley was that I was the co-editor and editor at large of Mashable. So at 23, they're like, do you want to run the West Coast of Mashable? And I'm like, sure, I'm totally qualified for that. But I ended up running the West Coast, wrote 2,446 articles, had a team of 50. Got to interview everyone from Sheryl Sandberg to like Mark Zuckerberg to the CEOs and VCs of like every major company, especially like in the early days. And after Mashable, I left. I invested in a bunch of early stage companies, started my own small fund. And from that experience, all these startups asked me for help in press and marketing and customer use acquisition. So I actually wrote a book for HarperCollins called Captivology, which you can find in all bookstores. It's called Captivology, the Science of Capturing People's Attention. It's on the science and psychology of attention, why we pay attention to certain people and products and how to utilize that science to captivate the attention of others. So I went through 300 years of scientific research on attention to memory, interviewed over 100 people, including the world's top PhDs in neurology and psychology, as well as like David Copperfield, the creator of Super Mario, Shigeru Miyamoto, the CEO of LinkedIn, Sheryl Sandberg, all these other people to understand the fundamentals of attention and how you capture it. And then I joined a bunch of boards. I joined the board of Sama Source, now the Lila Jana Foundation, focused on giving work to hundreds of thousands of people across the world, and the advisory board of Lufthansa. And it's fun to always go to Germany. And 2016, Matt, tricked me and our other co-founder Leaf into working with him to start Octane.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. It's so many things to pick out of like both of those introductions. The one thing that I wanted to ask you is how did you, Matt, end up connecting with Ben and talking him into the whole Octane? And did you guys start off as Octane.ai, or was that something that was revamped at the time, you guys?
Before Matt starts, I'm just going to say my idea was great. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, so Ben and I met because we were in a private community made by like a top Facebook engineer, and this was back in like 2005 or something. And Ben had posted something in this forum that was an absolute horrible idea.
Great.
So Ben does not know what he's talking about. And so the Ben and I met because I had to explain to him how horrible his idea was. He wanted to start some sort of like online. I was probably like 17 or something. I don't know, Ben, a couple years older than me. And he wanted to start like a blog, like a community blog. I was like, this is a horrible idea. And so I started a competing one, and we competed for a bit. Turns out they were actually both horrible ideas. But we didn't know each other in person. It was just through this like private community that this like really early Facebook engineer had created. And then I moved out to Silicon Valley a couple of years later, and was still, talking with Ben, had never met in person, but still friends. The equivalent of maybe how you would be Twitter friends with someone now, but we didn't have Twitter back then. And then I was moving to a new place. We had an opening for roommate. Ben had been trying to move into Silicon Valley, and he had landed a job at Mashable. And so the first time I met Ben was when it was him and his mom basically arriving in Ben's truck in Mountain View and in the Valley. And yeah, we've been, best friends ever since then. And, we didn't really get a chance to work on anything together really for a while, but with Octane.ai, Ben's like very well known within the industry because he does all these speeches. He worked at Mashable. If you wanted to get coverage on Mashable, like Ben was a person to go to. Ben's at all the parties, he knows everybody. And he's known a lot of people before they even start their company. And so you can't just get Ben as a co-founder on your company. Right. You can't there's no straightforward way to do it. If you're like, Ben, do you want to be a co-founder? It's just not the right approach. And so I took the opposite approach, and I said, Ben, I have a genius idea. And Ben is usually, picking up the phone or whatever, listening to me say something like that. And I tell him the idea, and he's like, yeah, it's interesting. I was like, yeah, I'm going to raise some money for this. And I don't think it's a good fit for you. I don't think this is something you should work on. And so I just told him like, yeah, I know that this is not something you'd want. I know that, you're interested in other things. Like I know this isn't the thing. And Ben was like, no, I need to be a part of this. And so I got Ben to join by telling him that it wasn't a good fit, with all intentions of trying to get him to join. And then our CTO and third co-founder, Leaf K. Brooks. So Leaf, I've known since don't know, maybe 2007, 2008 ish. We also met online. I was working at Ustream at the time. I think Leaf was in college, and Leaf popped in the chat room on Ustream for like a live video stream, and it was like saying some stuff in the chat. We started talking, and a year later, Leaf made a website called Omegle, which I don't know if you're familiar with Omegle, but it is a wildly popular chat app. Like 1 million people use it every day. You can basically talk to strangers. If you go on something like TikTok and search Omegle, you will find you will find millions and millions of videos with like billions of views of people just like filming themselves using this app. And so he worked on that. That's the only thing he's done. He's just an expert at chat. And so when we were putting the team together for Octane.ai in 2016, I was like, what, like, I didn't go to college, but when you apply to college, you're like, you have a school you want, and then you have like a reach school. I was like, okay, like Ben was a reach. So for CTO, we also need to have a reach. Like, who's someone that like, I just think they would never do it. They're too crazy for this.
Right.
And Leaf, by building Omegle, which is like one of the most popular websites in the world, he's like the craziest person you could get to bring onto a conversational app to be the CTO. And so I kind of got on the phone with Leaf. I was like explaining to him like, hey, like this is the opportunity. I think this is really the future. Like there's so many different ways this can go. I got my boy Ben, who's gonna do it too. And Leaf, to my surprise, and to his credit, agreed. And it's just been awesome since then. And we've had a bunch of ups and downs. We've almost died like 3 times. We had a recent Forbes article come out where we announced our $4.5 million in new funding, and also revealing the secret that we've almost died like 3 times. So it's been a ride, but things are going very well right now. And I think e-commerce in general, probably as you know, is just booming.
It's crazy. Yeah, that's amazing. Can you tell me quickly the story of how you guys almost died? I didn't get to read the article.
Which one do you want?
give me the one. Give me the most popular one that just was the closest call.
I gotta tell you both.
Okay, go for it.
So Ben, I can let you take over, but for some context, when we started the company in 2016, we were just like Facebook Messenger bots. Any business can use Octane.ai without code to build a Facebook Messenger bot, and there's a lot of different use cases for that. We weren't focused on a specific vertical. And then in 2000, like a year after doing that, we were like, okay, like we have a lot of different businesses that are using us, and they're pulling us in a lot of different directions, and they all want to do different things. And this makes it very complicated to define what your product roadmap is when you're getting pulled in like all sorts of different directions. So we evaluated, we're like, okay, we need to focus on one core vertical that we know we can provide an ROI positive solution for. And what we came up with was e-commerce. E-commerce brands already make a tremendous amount of money by doing customer journey automation on email, and bringing them the ability to do that with conversation on things like Facebook Messenger was a no-brainer. So like, okay, we're going to do this. Let's build a Shopify app, work really hard on that. It takes a long time to build a complicated Shopify app, and it takes months sometimes to get approved by Shopify because they're very strict, which is a good thing. And so like mid 2018, we have made our Shopify app. We are very proud of our Shopify app. We are about to be released into the Shopify App Store and be featured by Shopify, and everything's going to be amazing. And also, we're like running a little low on money, like almost out. And so we really need the Shopify app to work. Right. And right at that moment, Cambridge Analytica happens. And Facebook has accused of all of this data breach and the political aspect to it, and all these crazy things happen. Like Mark Zuckerberg's like doing all these talks, and it's just everything gets crazy. And Facebook shuts down the Facebook Messenger platform at the same time that we launch our app on Shopify. So anyone who signs up cannot actually use us. So Ben, you want to go over how bad this got and what we did after that?
I tried to block out like Matt and I remember like in particular, I think Matt and I were like laying on my floor in like tiny apartment in New York City at the time, and like laying on like that, and we're just like, so like we're like screwed, aren't we? It's like, yeah, maybe probably. And like we even had a call with like one of our investors, Phil Libin, the founder of Evernote, he just raised stupid amount of money for his new product. And we'd had the conversation with him. He's just like, look, guys, if Facebook turns it back on, then we'll be able to do this thing. And if they don't turn it back on, then we'll just shut the company down and we'll go out for some heavy drinking and we'll figure out a new thing in the morning. And it's just like, it was both like reassuring to be like, I'm not mad. It's like, we'll get through it, but also, oh, we're at that point now.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we came up with a plan, and we had like some money that was potentially going to come in a couple of months. And we knew that if we could get into Shopify, that we could prove things and like grow the business. And so what we did was we went to our existing investors, from our original rounds, and we're like, look, this the situation, this is like as truthful as it is. This is what we firmly believe. We firmly believe in Shopify. And so like our proposal is this, if it comes back, if the platform comes back, then you agree now to put in an amount of money, but you don't send it until the platform is back and we can launch a Shopify app. But if it doesn't come back, then you don't send the money. So like zero risk in that way.
right.
And to the credit of a lot of our investors, they all like committed, decent amount of money so that we could like build and survive. And we had to make hard decisions too. We had to cut some of the team, which really, really sucked. And we had to, rebuild in some way. But because of that, we're here. And now we're like one of the top apps in the Shopify ecosystem and have built up like an amazing team of like, we're like 40 at least at this point now.
Wow, amazing. Congratulations to both of you. I mean, that's really, and what you said, you guys launched in 2018, your app officially, like when it all went down. Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations on that. Cause I know, the Shopify app platform can go both ways, right? It could be something you build and you're like, I just need this, and it takes you the other way where everyone else is looking for it. Or you can go in building like everyone needs this, and you come to find out nobody really cares about this. So I'm glad you guys were able to figure out. By the way, I just want to say Phil Libin, I when I was really big on Evernote, I was a very, very strong like follower of his, and I really love all his work and his kind of his demeanor. So that's really cool that you guys have him as an investor. That's an awesome little gateway to have there.
Yeah, Phil's great. I think that they would, anyone who's raised money will always say that there's a small number of investors that have invested in their company where if they just called them to like freak out, that person would pick up and that they would talk to them. And so like,
right.
If Ben and I, just hung up right now and called Phil, even though he just raised like $31 million and is, doing his own thing, he would pick up the phone and he would talk to Ben and I and, talk us down, whatever
Right.
crazy ledge we're on. So that's always what you want to look for in an investor. And we're lucky that we have a bunch of investors like that.
I love it. I love it. And in terms of raising money, how long were you guys able to bootstrap the platform for? And did you guys have a team building this, or was it strictly your CTO working on something like this? Or how did that kind of the beginning process of that, work? Or did you guys, I don't know, potentially even just sell kind of more of the idea and like, we have the manpower, we just need the money to kind of shell into this thing?
Yeah. So we raised money right in the beginning. I think we'd only been working on it. We hadn't even started building, I don't think. I think when I reached out to a buddy of mine, Brayton Williams from Boost VC, and then also Adam Draper, they're both partners in the fund Boost. I basically reached out. I was like, hey guys, like I got this idea. I think it's going to be really big. Here's the reasons why it's going to be really big. Very similar to what I was telling Ben and Leaf. And Brayton's like, oh yeah, sounds good. Can I check out the product? And I was like, oh no, there's nothing right now. But I have
What a
this
great conversation.
I was like, oh, I have this like drawing on like a napkin. I could like take a photo and text it to you. And so I did that. And like previously, Boost had been doing smaller investments of like, $15,000, $20,000. And so I was thinking maybe that's like what would happen. And he hit me back and he was like, okay, like Adam and I are really interested. Would you be interested in like taking 250K right now? And I was like, holy shit, I had no idea that like they were doing this. And it was just something that they just started doing. Now Boost invests, $500,000 in sci-fi companies at the early stage. I think they do 20 investments a year at $500,000. So they've grown quite a lot. But I was, at the time, we were one of like the first companies to get that. And so they were our first investor in, and that allowed us to get off the ground with just Ben Leaf and I. And then we were able to go raise money from General Catalyst and Phil Libin and a bunch of other really incredible investors since then.
Awesome. Is your entire company based in US, or are you guys all over the world?
So we're completely remote, and we've
Yeah.
been remote like since we started the company. It was started as a remote company, which in the beginning, Ben, I'm sure you remember this, is we would talk to investors and they'd be like, I don't know, like you're remote, like it's pretty weird, like
Right.
you're not in San Francisco. Whereas like with all the crazy stuff that has happened this year, being a company that was started in 2016 as remote first is turns out to be a really big advantage. And I don't think anybody can bat an eye at saying that you're a remote company anymore.
Right. And that's the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about it. That's the beautiful thing about it.
We have people. We've been very international, I think, in our inception, and now we have people in over 12 countries. I actually a little bit of that is because our first major executive hire almost 4 years ago was Megan Berry, our VP of product, who was the VP at Rebel Mouse and was the first like employees at Clout, and just like we've known her for a long time, and we somehow convinced her to like join us, but she had built lots of remote engineering and product teams and brought an international perspective. And now we have people everywhere from South Korea, a lot in Canada, several of whom have worked for Shopify, everywhere, Ireland, Spain, Slovenia. It's all Brazil, all across.
I love it.
It's been amazing. And because we were all remote, we didn't lose a beat. And in fact, like it really helps with recruiting because people are looking for companies that are that have that remote experience. And we're hiring for a lot of roles right now, so it's pretty great.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, when I built my agency, I mean, it was never even a question in my mind to go get an office space. It was like, why? There's everything I need is right in front of me, and if people are willing to do this, they're gonna see the benefits, and if they don't, then it's not the place for them. Like, I'm not gonna, bend myself or bend what I want to do just because somebody wants to be in an office. But I don't think it's necessary. I think it also on our end it helps lower the cost for our clients, right? Because we don't have this huge overhead of the keg in the conference room type of deal. You know what I mean? That allows us to really just say, hey, this is what it is, and these are the people working on it, and be very transparent about it, and just run a good business. So that's really awesome that you guys were ahead of the curve. Because I think on my end, I think it was like 2015-ish, 16-ish when I started it, and that's when I was like, yeah, remote is going to be the way to go, not knowing that it was going to take a pandemic for everyone to realize, but you know what I mean. It's pretty crazy. So tell me a little bit about your guys' fund. So how much have you guys raised up to date? I know you guys recently raised another round for a lot of the stuff that's coming out with the shoppable quiz, which I obviously want to get into, but what are you guys looking at the moment? How much have you guys raised, and are you guys looking to raise more money going forward?
Yeah, so we've raised $9 million
Okay.
total right now, and we're not looking for investment. We are just heads down growing at the moment. And I think at the beginning of 2020, when COVID first came out, it hit a lot of e-commerce merchants pretty hard. Some of them they couldn't get product from their factories. They were not sure what's going on, and so I think March was a pretty tumultuous month for everybody. But since then, I feel everything's been taking off. We kind of readjusted. We've come out with our shop quiz product. We came out with a plan where we offer ROI positive plans to our merchants, so they don't even start paying until they're profitable with our software, because we didn't want them worrying about sinking costs into something that wasn't making money, especially in a year like this. And we knew that if we could remove the barrier to entry to using our software, we knew that if they did all the right things, it would help them be sustainable. It would help them pay themselves and their support their families and their employees.
Yeah.
And so we came up with this ROI positive plan, and that's been going really, really well. Now we're helping thousands of businesses. They're making millions and millions of dollars every month through our software. And we're not just doing Facebook Messenger and SMS anymore. with this investment of 4.5 million, we are basically this technology stack that you get to use with your Shopify brand to be the core of your personalization for your brand. And the key part of that is this shop quiz, which it allows you to onboard customers who come to your store in a very, very sexy, brand friendly, like it looks very well designed way, ask a series of questions, and then present product recommendations, and then save all that information that you've collected from the customer in this conversation to a centralized buyer profile on Octane.ai, and then automatically sync it across all your marketing channels. So if you learn something about someone, instead of just forgetting about that or never using it again, now you can retarget people on Facebook or Instagram based on that data. You can segment people differently on Klaviyo, for example. You can send different text messages, different Facebook messages. You can identify new buyer personas. And the future of Octane.ai is basically anything that we can do to help stores in a very straightforward way improve that personalization for each of their customers by building relationships. That's what we're going to be building, and I think we're less than 1% of the way towards doing that.
I love it. I love it. That's really awesome. Yeah, it was. I checked out your guys' demo and everything that you guys had up on. I think it was LinkedIn, and I've obviously gone to the website when it came out, and was really, really impressed by what you guys had done. And so, hats off to you guys, because I think that's been. Speaking honestly, I kind of had that same thought about that sort of quiz thing for more of like a subscription based company. Because right now, if you go to some of these merchants, whether it's a coffee or anything else, it's like this click through of like, how much coffee do you want, how you want it ground, how you want this. And I think that's been kind of the missing piece, which in my opinion was, I think, a huge market to cover with the subscription world, with like the Bold and the Recharge and
Right.
all those folks. And I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't sink their teeth a little bit deeper into that area, because I think it falls so nicely within their product line. But yeah, I was really impressed by, especially like I'm very brand oriented. So when you guys actually release something very sexy like that, like you said, I think it's that much more appealing to people to use it.
There's like a couple of things here. I think, our core has been like conversation, and like that's like where we started. And like conversation is all about like making things more human. And really, what we built with the shop quiz is a conversation, but it happens on the site. And instead of looking like a chatbot or something, it looks and feels like part of your website. And
Yeah.
so I think it's very different than, say, like we're very close with Recharge, and stay tuned.
Mhm.
But they like they're like their payments at their core. They know that stuff like the back of their hands in ways that we will never know. And so
Right.
like it's like, to me, it's like there's all these synergies. And so we launched with an integration with the Facebook ad pixel so that you could like send these like detailed ads based on the questions that people answered, and a Klaviyo integration so that you could send more targeted emails. But that's like the very beginning of a large list of integrations that are coming down the pipeline for the quiz. And I kind of think of the entire product suite as like hitting all the key steps of the product journey, of the customer journey, because lots of products only hit like one small piece or one thing here. But if you can have a set of products that can talk to customers from the beginning of the product journey, like the quiz does, learn about them, and then customize their experience at the later stages of the journey, like in the follow-ups, the post-purchase, the abandoned carts, whatever it is, you'll have not just a like more personalized message or more personalized product. You can send a very targeted message based on what buyer profile they are. They're 18 and oily, they should get a different set of messages than if they're in their 30s and have dry skin. But you'll also, give a better experience to the end customer in general. And I think a lot of times there's too many products or too many things where they're trying to, like, I'm going to help you spam as much as possible. The short term, you might make more money. In the long term, you'll lose money because they'll get
Yep.
tired of it. They'll leave, they'll churn. Versus like if you make it like what it is in the store, where you're like talking with somebody and like having a conversation, they're going to build a relationship with you. They're going to want to buy more and stay more. And that's kind of like what we're trying to do with our products, with the quiz as a big centerpiece of that.
Yeah, and I look at that as almost when I go, for example, the difference of going to let's say a Safeway and like a Whole Foods, right? At Whole Foods, you ask a person, "Hey, can you find me, this multivitamin?" And they won't just point you in the direction, say it's over there. They're actually going to walk you to that aisle, show you, "Hey, I think these are some of the things that I would recommend, or I've seen a lot of people buy, or whatever it is." Is that extra little like get under my arm and I'll take you there rather than point you over there and then you got to still look around and see, oh, where did they say it was? I think that's honestly the experience that you guys are talking about. That's the sense that I get, is because I think as the earlier you get that investment from the customer, like you said, there's a journey where you get to know them, then they almost feel like, not that they have to come back and buy from that merchant, but they feel like, well, why would I go and restart something when this person already has my info and they could probably get me something a little bit more tailored towards me, or if I need to, like you said, go change something about my profile, whether it's like extra dry skin or just slightly dry skin, for example. I think I think it's a much easier entryway to come back over and over again, or do like a subscription thing or whatever it is,
Yep.
than to go to another place and try to do it again, and hopefully they have a better product, and you don't know till you get it, and then you go back and you're like, no, I didn't like it. So it's just this back and forth. And I think that whole structure of like, getting to know them in the beginning, which in some cases people now will say, well, no, you got to be quick and you got to sell. And it's like, no, people are okay with scrolling websites now. Like they're okay going
Yeah.
through the process and getting to know, even if it's just the homepage, and seeing the different layers of the company or how much information is being provided. So now I think that was a really, really awesome step. I do want to ask, have you guys seen anything since you guys have launched it? Have you guys seen anything surprising that's hit you we were like, whoa, we didn't even expect this to happen, like, or whether it's good or bad, I guess it would be my question.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's like multiple things that have come out now that we have we have a lot of Shopify Plus brands using the
Yeah.
shop quiz now. And we've definitely discovered some things that I don't think anybody expected, but they're super
Right.
interesting. And I think we're excited for more stores to kind of stumble upon this. And then one thing for you that you were saying is like, you don't have to be like quick and hit people over the head when they get to your store, because the matter of the fact, if you run a store, this, it's like 98% of people who hit your store, they're not buying anything. Right.
Right.
And who
Exactly.
knows why they're not doing that? Are they evaluating other brands? Like, what is it? So what do you do with those 98%? And I think our opinion is that you should treat them like human beings, not like numbers. And you should build a relationship, and you should understand the fact that they're just not going to buy anything today.
Yeah.
Or at least most of them aren't. And the best thing you can do is build that relationship, get to know them. I think like one of the huge inspirations for what we're doing. So I grew up in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the really unique things about Southern California is that we have this mall. It's called South Coast Plaza. You probably have never heard of it.
I've actually used to live down in Newport
Oh,
Beach and Irvine, so I'm very familiar with that whole. I was in LA, Koreatown, for a long time too.
perfect. Okay. So
Yeah.
then the crazy thing about South Coast Plaza is most people who haven't lived over here wouldn't know about it. But
Right.
if you are a prince from somewhere, or from a very wealthy family in China or somewhere else, you definitely know what South Coast Plaza is, because South Coast Plaza, with 275 brands in one location, is actually the most consolidated shopping center of luxury brands in the entire United States. And with $1.5 billion in annual sales, it's the highest grossing shopping center in the entire United States. Like Rolex has their flagship store in South Coast Plaza. So it's just filled with luxury brands. And what's interesting about luxury brands is they have the people who work there are called luxury sales associates. And you can go look, if you go look up like job postings for luxury sales associates, you can read through the
Yeah.
responsibilities of them. And the responsibilities are, it's not like Whole Foods or Safeway. It's like, this is a whole nother tier, right? Your responsibilities are, you basically are becoming the best friend of everybody who walks in. It's not just bringing them to the right product or the right aisle. You are getting to know them on a personal level. You are learning their preferences. Oftentimes these relationships can span for decades, and this
Right.
person will come back on an annual basis, and you will walk them through the new Rolexes, the new Hermes purses, like whatever it is. You will probably be texting with them. Maybe your friends on WeChat, maybe your friends on Instagram. You are asking them about their kids. They're maybe asking you about yours. And like that, they manage their own client roster. This is the most personalized shopping experience in the entire world, is with these luxury sales associates. And they're able to do this because the margin on their product and the amount of money that's being spent. People can go to South Coast Plaza. That family could spend $100,000 or more in like a 24-hour period. Like that's why you need to provide this. And so if you're in, like, then the question is, okay, you're an e-commerce brand. Like, okay, do you wish that you could offer this level of experience to your customers? Like, do a portion of your customers, do you think they would get value out of having that level of, like, it's not directing you to an aisle. This is a long-term relationship for decades. Like, yes, absolutely, you want that. But can you afford to hire people to do that? No, you probably couldn't even do that in a retail location. So how do you do that? And the answer is technology. And technology is what's going to enable us to democratize the luxury sales associate and make that available to everybody online. And that's like a core of what we're trying to provide with Octane.ai, is how can everybody who walks through your virtual doors have this personalized relationship? How can you automatically get to know them, never forget that information, and then be able to use that across anywhere you communicate with that customer? And I think, like I said earlier, there's just an infinite amount of things that can be done in this direction. And right now, the level of personalization that stores provide today is, you looked at this product, so I'm going to advertise that product to you on Facebook. You added this product to your cart, and I'm going to email you about that product. That has nothing to do with the customer's preferences, their needs, their concerns, their location, their history, and their personality. That's what we're working to unlock with technology. And I think, back to your original question, some of the really interesting things we've discovered from that. So one, Beauty Bio. Beauty has skincare products. They use the shop quiz. They're a really great brand, growing really quickly. When you take the shop quiz on their site, it's an onboarding experience. They're asking you, what type of skin do you have? What's your skincare routine? Are you looking for something for an AM routine, a PM routine, something that you can do both with? And then it takes the combination of these answers and it builds you a personalized routine. And everybody gets a different routine. It's not like one question determines one thing. It's the unique combination of these questions. And what they use the shop quiz for is they can log in Octane.ai, they can look at the dashboard, they can track all the revenue, all the data amongst everything. And they actually use Octane.ai to split these people into different buyer personas. And they were able to see that one of these buyer personas has a multiples higher average order value. And that's something that they wouldn't have known beforehand. And because they can track like custom pixel events for Facebook on these, they actually not just only can realize, oh, this specific buyer persona actually, like, people spend a lot more money per order. They could now create a lookalike audience and go tell Facebook to go find them more people like that on Instagram and Facebook. That's like immediately amazing. I think that applies to every brand. Another one is doe lashes. They sell eyelashes. You want to wear, fake eyelashes to look more glamorous. That's what they do. And they built a quiz that helps you figure out, they ask you a lot of questions. It even ranges from like, what TV show did you watch as a kid? And they use that to identify like how old you probably are, which is like a really nifty trick.
That is a nifty trick. I really like that. I really like that.
Yeah, it was like, is it SpongeBob? Is it like this? Is that? And they use, when the quiz, it's like their GIFs, so like it looks really good. It's nothing like a chat bot.
That's almost like asking, are you a Seinfeld or Friends, or what what tier do you fall into?
And it's something that could happen with a friend, right? Like it's something that you could just casual conversation. This is not like a transaction. This is actually relationship building experiences, which I think we just need more of, honestly. And that's what we're trying to help with. And in their quiz, one of the questions that they decided to put in was, how often do you wear lashes? It was like, oh, every day, like I'm crazy about them, or once a week, or when I go out, or I've never worn lashes. And this question had nothing to do with the results. It had nothing to do with anything. They just like threw it in there as like a conversational item. And they were expecting that people would just say, oh, like all the time. And what was crazy is that after, I think like 10,000 people had taken the quiz in a couple of days or something, and we looked at the data, and it turned out that the most popular answer was, I have never worn lashes before. And so
new customers,
Right. They're like, wow, like they had no idea. All of their marketing, all of their advertising, all of their email follow-ups, everything was geared towards assuming that you wear lashes all the time, because why the heck are you buying lashes if you're
They were
not
like,
already
Matt,
familiar
is
with
this a
this?
bug in your system? It's not recording the right data or something like that.
It was a
Yeah.
huge revelation for them. And so
Yeah.
because they capture email through the Octane.ai shop quiz, and all of the answers and data collected in the quiz are also synced to their Klaviyo account, what they did is they're like, holy crap, we need to like start catering to these people. And so they started building out a Klaviyo welcome series based on education that they funnel people who say they've never worn lashes into. And then on the advertising side, now they can start to make creatives that are targeting people assuming that they've never done this before. So those are the types of things that we're starting to see. And I feel like it's just the beginning of what's going to be possible. And it's really cool to see it happen.
I love it, man. I love that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff.
I'll just leave it just like,
yeah.
sorry. There's just
No,
so
you're
many.
good. You're good.
Yeah, there's so many creative, like we've been starting to see more and more creative use cases, right? Because like when you start, you're like, like there's some clear quiz use cases. You're like, I'm gonna like go and recommend like a product based on X and Y, and like how these beauty quizzes and others. But then we start people build dynamic bundles with it, like you were talking about subscription before, or then like some other ones, like one of our customers turned it into like a dynamic opt-in where like it could ask like if you wanted messenger, email, or SMS to get a discount. And I feel like
Or
there's
like
a whole bunch of things
like a
like
recipe finder.
Right.
recipe finder.
Or,
we just don't know
if you only have one product, something else that like most people don't think of. Let's say you have one product, it only works for like a segment of people. You have a lot of people who purchase it and then they return it because it doesn't work for them. It's actually really beneficial for your business if the quiz can determine if you're qualified for the product or not. So you can limit the number of returns you get, because that can cause you huge problems. So we also have brands that do that. Or you can create a quiz where maybe you only have a couple products and it's basically dynamically changing the pitch of why this product is good for you. Oh, it's a teeth whitener, and you should have this because you told us that you drink coffee. Or oh, you should have this because you said you drink a lot of red wine. And it can start to treat those people differently.
I love it. I love it. No, that's really, really awesome. Honestly, just talking to you guys about this and just listening to everything you're saying, it's really, really intriguing in terms of how you guys think about it, because I have this long story short, basically we're a service agency right now where we're catering to a lot of merchants and doing all sorts of stuff. And I've set a goal for our team and just been kind of like putting this out there, is like, we're on the verge of shifting from being a service first business to moving over to a product based business with service as like a lever for us to continue to service, because we like doing that. Because to me, I have a plethora of ideas around e-commerce and different things that I want to get out of my brain and put it on paper type of thing. And I'm always thinking about different ways, because we see so many use cases of people even just coming to us like, I need my website redesigned. And I'm like, whoa, let's take a step back. Why do you need your website redesigned? Because people are not buying. There's probably something so much deeper that you're not doing to have people purchase from you, that you're just looking at it from like, oh, it doesn't look good because my header doesn't look like, Sephora or whatever, one of these things. And it was like, no, hold on. I've seen that some of the shittiest websites make the most amount of money when they just know how to tailor to those customers. And the fact that you guys made something so dynamic where it allows you, it's not like, oh, you bought this, go buy this again. It's like, no, you bought this. Here's 3 products that we think you're probably going to like based on just even the data that we have. And if you don't like it, return it and we'll take care of it, full refund or whatever it is. And that's where you kind of start to play that game, like that brand you were talking about with the lashes, forget the name, but doe lashes, same thing. It's like you can go through and be like, oh wow, is this like for real? Like people are not using, they're coming to our website, we got 10,000 inquiries and it's like 8,000 of them have never used had eyelashes. Like that's crazy to me. So that's awesome, man. I'm really, really pumped for you guys, and I love what you guys are doing.
I think it's like, and thank you. And I think like we're also just so open to feedback, right? Like I think we see ourselves as this like centralized R&D team building out the future personalization for everybody, right? Like we are not, what's different about technology-based companies from Silicon Valley, which is like where we come from, is that everybody builds their own technology. Like that's how it works. Whereas in the world of e-commerce, it's a very agency and apps based ecosystem, which is really
Yeah.
healthy and really good because everybody gets to focus on the things that they're best at. And so I think we see ourselves as, you know, most e-commerce brands don't have their own in-house developers, especially ones building something anywhere near our capacity. We're here spending millions and millions of dollars building something, and we're building it on behalf of everybody in the ecosystem. So all feedback, like our roadmap is open. We're looking to improve this based on what everybody else kind of wants.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I got to ask, do you guys do either of you guys run any of your own e-commerce stores?
I've run a couple,
Okay.
and I haven't shared them publicly though.
Okay.
But yeah, I run a couple, nothing like massive or anything like that,
Right.
but just enough so that, you know, I can sell some stuff.
That's awesome. How about you, Ben?
I need to crack the code deeper on it. So that there's going to be a point where I'm just going to quietly do a thing, and then I'm going to go to Matt and be like, "Hey, Matt, my the team reached out to the store that I started. By the way, I started a store a year ago." So it's on my mind, but you know what? It's so much harder to start and build up a store than then it's just so hard. It's a startup. You have to put like all your like heart and soul to really go and build it up. You know,
Yeah.
you can't like at a pretty early point. It's not you can't make it a side project and like expect it to continue to grow. And it has all these additional logistical layers and other marketing layers that maybe other types of companies don't have.
Right, right. Absolutely, absolutely.
I think one thing I just wanted to add in
Yeah.
was I think like what's interesting to think, there's a couple of things that are like really interesting to think about. One is if you were going to sell a product to like one person and that was it, that was like you had one customer, you'd be like, are you going to talk to that customer? Yeah. Like totally, you're going to talk to that customer. How are you going to not talk to that customer? Let's say you have 5 customers. Are you going to talk to all 5 customers? Yeah, like totally. But then once you start getting to like, okay, you have like 100, 5,000, 100,000, like you don't talk to them anymore. But if you think about it, you're like, if I could talk to all 100,000 people and that like was something that somehow was humanly possible, would I do that? And you would absolutely say yes. But the reality is that you don't, because you haven't quite figured out how to do it. And early on, it's like so helpful because communication is what provides feedback loops. And how can you get any better at what you do without a feedback loop? And so if your business grows to the point where you have so many customers that you can no longer talk to anybody anymore, now you've lost out on this like immensely powerful feedback loop that got you to where you are today. And so I think that that's like one thing we're trying to figure out how to solve is like, how do we make sure that there are feedback loops in all the right places? And conversation is like the ultimate way to have a feedback loop. And the shop quiz can be used for onboarding, post-purchase survey, you know, holiday shopping, like what should we come out with our new products? Like you could basically automate any sort of conversation you wanted to. And like when I was going through Y Combinator years and years ago, the thing that, you know, this is the same thing they tell to Coinbase and to, you know, Dropbox and to Twitch and everybody else is the number one thing that you need to be spending time on is building or talking to customers.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Those are the 2 things you do. You build and you talk to customers. So if you're listening to this right now and you have a business and you know that you have a ton of customers that you're not talking to, think of like how scary it is that you don't know what they're thinking or why they're doing the things they are. And then also how exciting it is that's a huge opportunity for you to unlock. And there's just like so many crazy things that talking to them at scale could do that you might not even be thinking about. There was another brand. I thought this was so wild. We have a brand that we work with that sells incense for people who smoke weed. And it's like you smoke weed, fills the room with weed, smells like weed, burn the incense, and now
It's
it
gone.
you know smells like something else. And all of their marketing is like Snoop Dogg is like all over their website. Like that's all the marketing. It's like, you're a big weed smoker, like you should use it.
Yeah.
They put a quiz on, and like part of the question was like asking like, oh, like why do you use incense, and you know, why do you do this, and like what's it for, like who are you? And what they discovered is over 50% of their customers are actually people in elderly homes and who don't smoke weed.
Wow. Wow.
And I was like, that's so wild. You're making half your money from this group. You're not marketing to them. You had no idea. If I was like, who do you make money from? They'd be like, oh, like people who smoke weed in Atlanta. And like, they just had no idea. And I think that's such like, it's just because they weren't talking to them. Like
That's
that's like what could you be finding out about your business that could like if you were like,
yeah,
hey, do you think only like elderly women in
yeah,
like old people like homes are like that's who your top customer is? They'd be like, are you stupid? That like
yeah,
makes no sense. But it
yeah.
it was. So like, what is that thing for your business? Like, let's go find that out.
Right. That's, and it's never too late to start that conversation with the even the 1,000 or 500 customers that you have that you maybe never talked to. It's never too late because it's going to be maybe a point of surprise to them. Be like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
I
Like
mean,
one thing that we started
Oh,
doing as a service.
yeah.
this
Yeah.
brand's making 50K a month.
There you go. See, look at that. Like it probably doesn't take a huge amount of operations to run that sort of business because a lot of the stuff is already pre-packed. It's just
Right.
matter of shipping it out and making sure the logistics are there. But you know, the incense is absolutely everywhere. They can go to the store tomorrow and buy incense, but they decide to go there because of
Right.
the marketing for the weed thing. But then you come to find out it's not even that's bringing half of your customers over to the store, which is kind of crazy. So
Crazy.
no, that's amazing. And yeah, I'm actually really intrigued that we're talking about weed, like the fact that you were so big in the hip hop community with like, you know, getting a lot of this stuff up and running. I have a really soft spot for like the hip hop community. Like I've been from the time I came to the US, I've been in the hip hop, like that's all I listened to. And that's all I've ever been, you know, wanting to kind of like get into at some point. I actually used to manage a producer. We got some stuff out there and all this, and it just
Nice.
for some reason didn't work out. But I love the music industry, man. I'm always on YouTube. I'm always watching behind the scenes shit. Like it's awesome. So that's really
No,
cool that you
music
We
industry
would need
is
another. We need
go
another
ahead, Ben.
6 hours for all the stories we've been
Oh,
through.
right. No, we definitely do. Definitely do. No, but that,
Music industry is awesome though, because I think like I was growing up, like didn't have access to technology until like high school, and then was like, holy crap, like the internet is amazing. Like up until then, I was like, oh, like I'll have a physical business and I'll have to pick out a street corner
yeah,
that gets like good foot traffic, and then the internet has unlimited foot traffic, and you're only as good as whatever you try to do. So like that was it for me, and the appeal of Silicon Valley and making apps and like all that, like
yeah,
that's what got me. But for music, it's awesome because you can live anywhere in the world. You can listen to any type of music you want. And now technology has gotten so good that you could be making beats or music
yeah.
on your phone. You can make that go viral on TikTok. You can go start getting your plays up on Spotify. And like, that's the crazy thing that's happening now is that there's like, the garage band version of people is just popping up all the time, and
Right.
they're making careers and they don't even have to get signed at this point. I think it's like, it's almost the same way I felt excited about technology. Even more people have the opportunity to get into music, and it's just such a creative like route. I think it's so awesome.
I still I'm still very sometimes I look at certain things and I look at people's merch shops or whatever it is, and I always think to myself, I'm like, they've missed out on so much opportunity with everything that they're doing because they have so many different revenues of income and all these other things. And I feel like if some of those folks just double down on their e-commerce stuff and really put a strong team, rather than having like a traveling team, especially now that they can't travel,
Yep.
you know, let those people do what they do, but build a whole nother team and spend that money and say, hey, listen, guys, my goal is to make X amount of dollars or sell this type of stuff or whatever it is. I
Yep.
feel like that some of these music artists wouldn't even be worried about their Spotify stream. They're just like, dude, let's just go sell merch. Like, let's just go
Yeah.
focus on.
There's a bunch of artists that we've worked with on like different kinds of things, and it's there's a couple that like have really strong teams for e-commerce presences, and others where they're like doing nothing, and you're like, we've seen some of this, like some store, like some bands just like have a ton of not just like merch, but they're also like creating their own like brands or creating drops.
Uh-huh.
They're doing some super interesting complex things. We have like this is not a musician, but this is like a figure like Laura Cleary, who like just came out with a book. She used our messenger tech to like get tens of thousands of people to buy our book through Facebook and Messenger. And so if you have that audience, like why wouldn't you leverage the technology that's going to help you sell a lot more and reach more of your audience, not just on Facebook, but like learn more about them too, because you have
Yeah.
this audience and you don't know enough about them.
I think you're totally right though, that like most people are like, whether it's a musician or they're just like a celebrity, like on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever, a lot of times what they come out with is like really generic, and they're like, oh, it's a t-shirt and it's got my name on it, or like it's got a slogan on it, or like whatever.
J. Cole
whereas,
sells a t-shirt for $50 a pop using a debut theme on Shopify. Like,
right.
come
But do you
on,
know
dude.
what?
Like,
But
you know,
do you know why? It's because the people that are managing those stores are not coming from an e-commerce background, and if they
correct.
are, it's like
Correct.
very limited. Because like it's crazy because you have the reach that you don't have to pay for, right? That's what's wild about
It's
them.
like the
Is that
opposite. Like people have the best product, they don't have the reach. These guys have the reach, but they don't have the product. It's
right, right, and maybe it's just because they actually can sell those t-shirts at a certain level. But also I think the like there's if you operate within the world of e-commerce, you're like, and you've been here for a bit, especially if you've operated a brand, the idea that you could invent a new type of beauty product or a new type of shirt or a new type of like thing, and then you could go get manufacturing for it, and then you could get shipment and distribution, and like you could do the automations, like that's just a playbook that's in your head. But for like an average person, or even someone who doesn't do that, someone who's like really skilled at everything else and they're working for a celebrity, if you were like, hey, like let's start selling custom designed, like, I don't know, lamps or something,
yeah.
they'd be like, it's actually not that hard to actually go like design that and get it done and start manufacturing them. But for them, that's like, it's like wizardry. It's like magic. It like doesn't,
Yeah.
there's nothing in their experience that says anything about how you would even go about doing that. Whereas t-shirts, there's like tons of businesses that they'll just like manage all of that for you.
On demand
Um,
shit. Yeah.
on demand stuff. So I feel like there's such a big opportunity for whoever is out there to like, I've always thought this would be like a really, and I know there's some people who are trying, but like if you could build a portfolio of online influencers who are in like a specific topics, and then you could match them almost like a studio, you could match them with a brand and then do it in like a bootstrap manner and then scale it up, you could eventually get to the point where that brand has been built up on a social media platform to the point where you could probably start getting distribution in Target or,
Yep.
wherever, and you could really expand this into like a really scalable business. I think that like that's exactly, I think the what you're saying as well is like they have the distribution. Why are the products so shitty? Why do the websites not have any of the best practices that we all know that should be there? Somebody should, help them out. I think that there's a huge opportunity there.
Huge opportunity. I had this idea in like 2012 when the iOS and iPad apps got so big, is to simply create, and I still have a wireframe of it, no joke. It's literally it's an app that anybody could recreate it and just like duplicate it, and you could just go in and, let's say, like a Kid Cudi, for example, and he has a merch store, he's got a Shopify Spotify playlist, he's got Ticketmaster for this and all this other stuff. Bring that all in, including his social media outlets, and bringing it all into one screen, basically, for lack of better words, and then have somebody literally just go, oh, I want to listen to this song, oh shit, he's got a shirt, like bring it all together just to show what this person has out on the market. And whatever you want to tailor to, if you just want the music, cool, you still get the music. If you
Yeah.
want some of the merch and the music, you get that too. And it could be like a $5 a month subscription. With their reach, let's say you have a million people out of like, some of these people, I think the Dwayne Rock Johnson just crossed like 200 million people on Instagram today or some crazy shit. I was like, dude, get like 1% of those people, you'll be making like millions of dollars and not doing anything,
No,
really.
I think this is actually like a really big problem, which we saw with TikTok this year, which is that most celebrities, no matter what type of celebrity you are, even if you're like The Rock, right? Like
Yeah.
no matter who you are operating on rented space. And like some
100%.
people that can work. Like probably The Rock's not gonna, he's not gonna lose all these people overnight or something. But with TikTok, people had dedicated a couple years, they built up these followings, they have millions of people, and then it was like, oh shoot, looks like TikTok might get shut down, and those people don't exist if TikTok gets shut down. That's where their distribution is, and it's not so different from Instagram or
Right.
YouTube or anything else. If YouTube suddenly disappears or they change the algorithm, Facebook
Right.
changes the algorithm, which they've done before, you're operating on a rented space, you don't actually own the land. And it's surprising at the number of influencers all the way up to like A-list celebrities who have no owned distribution. Like
Right.
and what's crazy about that is like in the world of e-commerce, you're like, should you spend a crap ton of money on ads that are profitable and never collect contact information? No, that's like a really, really bad plan. That's like a
Right.
recipe for disaster, because the moment that your ad creative and your targeting or whatever doesn't work anymore, like you're left with nothing. And that's why so many things in e-commerce, the best practices are around building relationships with customers, building first party data, getting to know them, like having those data points to yourself so you don't have to rely on like third party cookies, which are going to go away,
Right.
or advertised like audience targeting. But outside of e-commerce, especially with like influencers and celebrities, there is no notion of that.
Nope.
And on a long enough timeline, that is really bad for a lot of people. So
Really bad.
yeah, I think that's something that the smart
One.
ones like Laura Cleary, which Ben was talking about,
Yeah.
they're starting to use tools to help them with that.
You know who did, you know who I will say, and I will give a lot of credit to, that actually cracked that code of building that relationship. And I'm sure you know, Matt, Ryan Leslie.
Yep.
Did He does the superphone thing where he, like,
Yep.
people text him, and when his album gets released, he does exclusive stuff. He has like a whole database. Anytime he releases, he's like, dude, overnight I'll make 150 grand because I own the platform and I could reach out to my people directly. So I will give him credit because he's like one of the only
Oh,
ones that's doing that.
oh yeah, Ryan. Yeah, we're Ben and I both are good friends with Ryan. We've known him for a long time. Ryan is super super smart, and the platform that he's made is really good.
Yeah.
I think it's like anything though. You can still have like the most advanced platform, but that doesn't mean that like the 18-year-old who's blowing up on TikTok right now knows how to utilize that to they don't know to text everybody all the time or all the fancy things like Ryan graduated like super young at Harvard,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
he's like legit super
Sharp
super
guy.
he's like above
Right.
average intelligence
Right.
over
Right.
there with
Right.
Ryan.
Right.
To say the least. And so yeah, I think that what he's doing is awesome, and I think that he'll continue to help people with it. But there's just so many people. I think there's like 60 million creators right now that are trying to figure out how to generate revenue as like a full-time situation. It's like the fastest growing class of people and profession, and so they're just going to need a lot of help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think it's insane. And it's just, to me, it's mind-boggling sometimes to hear people are doing, a $10,000-$20,000 a post, and, in influencer dollars and all these different things. And then, there's not, like you just said, there's not a way to clearly monetize and bring those people from platform to platform, have a very much of an overlapping audience across all those different stages. So if one goes away, you're still good. Like, you don't have
Right.
to worry about that. It's just more, become like, okay, I'm in this box right now. Now I got to jump into this box. Okay, well, I got to
Yep.
build this box up, and then I got to go jump into the other box. It's like
I mean,
But
this
then it all goes away. It's all ephemeral, right? And so I think like
exactly.
if you were to suddenly like snap your fingers and like that's the crazy thing. 60 million people, who's teaching them how to do anything?
Nobody.
Like are they going to school for that? They're not going to school for that. They're just
Right.
copying what everybody else does. But the whole industry is based on selling other people's things. You are basically this spokesperson for other people, and you will go away. You will get too old. You will get bad. People will move on. Like this is like a really bad situation to be in. I think if you could snap your fingers and like wish that they all understood something, how do you build an e-commerce brand? That's super
Yeah.
important. How do you have owned marketing instead of rented space? That's a second one. And then how can you like promote yourself and a product for your life as opposed to just other people's products, right? If I'm someone and I get a lot of fans, I could make some money now promoting other people, but long term, if I can focus that on my own brand, like you could become a billionaire, right?
Exactly.
it,
Exactly.
it there's like two other elements to this too, which is like one, the smartest, or like there's certain ones who have like maybe they have some business savvy and they build up empires because they know that like them talking on camera all the time isn't super scalable. So like example, Matt and I are friends with Hank Green, who founded like Vlog Brothers and SciShow and a bunch of other popular YouTube channels and DFTBA. And so we started with like this, like, the Vlog Brothers channel and like him and his brother talking. But then they expanded it out to like, not just merch for themselves, but merch for other people. They founded Subbable, which got acquired by Patreon. So they have a piece of that. They like launched these other channels and built a platform on top of like what they had done. And that's like the smart thing to do over the long run. And the other thing too is just like, I had a conversation earlier this week with a lot of D2C CEOs and brands, and you know, influencers is still one of the like best ROI
Mm-hmm.
for reaching new customers. And so there's tons of money and opportunity for creators. But you know, you have to both think about how do I, like everything that Matt said, build your own base, build your own owned marketing, build like your own brands around it, and think through how you can expand it and like work with people who have track records that can
Exactly.
help you expand it. Because
I,
there's
I
certain ones
guarantee, I
like
guarantee, I guarantee you that if you sell your own product versus somebody else's, the margins are infinitely better.
Oh, 100%. I mean, look at, I think Shop Mr. Beast or whatever, he has like 45 million subscribers on YouTube. And I think he does like, I don't know, millions of dollars through like
he's
on-demand
great at
ship.
it.
Although
Yeah.
he's the one that just recently, I think he's the one that recently screwed up like a scavenger hunt, right? And he accidentally, people solved, like he spent like 2 years on a scavenger hunt for like a huge prize and people solved it in like 2 hours. It was
Oh,
supposed to take like 6 months to solve.
oh,
But I
shit.
like the attempt because that stuff
Yeah,
is
yeah.
always is
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. No, I think these are all really really interesting kind of perspectives, and I think it's really awesome. You guys being obviously kind of on top of that whole Shopify app platform and doing so well, and you know, obviously working with a lot of Shopify Plus brands and all that stuff. Where do you guys see, and take the pandemic into consideration, obviously, but where do you guys see, or where if you guys spin your mindset of like where Shopify as an ecosystem is going, and how do you think that's going to evolve? Because I think you guys are onto something that's very wide, and that's going to cast a big net on that ecosystem, because of the fact that you guys are doing personalization. I think everything's kind of going back to shaking hands, giving people hugs, and I feel like that's what you guys want to do with what you're doing with the quiz and all this, where before it was just like, let's throw some ads out, let's get people to buy, and then fuck them, don't talk to them again type of thing. And
Right.
you know what I mean? I don't think that's the way to do business. I think it's like, I'm always a fan, even on my side running an agency, I'd rather have fewer customers that are quality than a quantity and just be having a headache every single day. Like that's just a true, like I'll leave money on the table for that
Yep.
to work out for me and my team. And so where do you guys see the Shopify ecosystem, you know, kind of going into? Because they're growing like crazy on so many aspects, like the whole unified checkout and native being native to some of these apps that honestly I was like, dude, Shopify can build this probably tomorrow and just knock everyone out. Obviously they're not going to do that, but where do you guys see that going?
Yeah. So I have a couple different things. So okay. So one, what's crazy is that Shopify is crushing it,
Right.
growing insane. The Shopify ecosystem generates more revenue every year than Shopify. That is like, I don't think most people think about it like that. And
Yeah.
that's growing really fast. And that's merchants and apps and agencies and designers and shipments and all, there's a huge ecosystem.
Yep.
And Shopify is going to continue to do better at what they do. And the better they become, the ecosystem will have a multiples effect
Yeah.
on that. So there's going to be multiple billion-dollar companies that are going to be created directly from inside the Shopify ecosystem. And I really strongly believe that. And it's already happening with merchants. It's going to happen with technology and agencies
Right.
and otherwise. So it's just the craziest ecosystem. And I've been a part of other ecosystems before. I know Ben has, and Shopify is a very, very healthy ecosystem. It's the healthiest ecosystem I've ever seen. Everybody's collaborative. Everything's growing so fast. It is just like a really strong group of people
Yep.
who communicate well and really truly want everybody else to succeed. So we're just so happy to have found it, and just humbled to be here. And it's just like really awesome to consider ourselves part of this community. I think the second thing is, you know, where we see ourselves
Mm-hmm.
in this community as it grows out is we are building technology that helps you have a relationship with your customers for their entire life, right? Exactly what you're saying. You don't want to have someone who comes through, you abuse them, and maybe they buy something, some percentage does, and they leave, and you're just like have this constant churn machine. Like you want to have that relationship where everybody likes each other. They want to hear from you. They love coming back. They respect you. They love your brand. You love them. You respect them. So we're building, I think a lot of people build technology that is just good for merchants. and abuses customers, and we are building technology that makes customers' lives better and makes the merchants better, and that's like a huge thing. And I think like one way to
It's a very hard
conceptualize.
balance to find, by the way. I do want to mention, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think that's a
I
very,
agree.
very hard balance to come off of. So yeah.
And I think that that's why it's a hard problem, right? But hard problems are the only ones worth trying to solve. And somebody needs to be thinking of the customer, because this ecosystem is not going to work long term if nobody's thinking of the customer, because they will remember, and we need to make sure that we remember them, so that they remember us positively. So that's what we're building. And I think like a way to think about that is, if you were thinking about people that you talk to, right, just like normal, like human to human, um, let's say you have someone you don't know, and say you have someone you know really well. How often do you think you'd feel comfortable texting this person that you don't know at all, versus how comfortable would you feel texting this person that you know like for 10 years, right? Like right now, almost everybody who comes through the door for a brand is the person over here. They don't know them at all. And what do? They hit them over the head. They on everything. They just bash them. They say tons of
Sign
stuff.
up
They're just
here, do this, do this.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
just everything. And they're not converting anybody. Most of them aren't. Some of them are really good at this, and we're trying to help with that. But most of them aren't converting them and spending the time to turn them into lifelong friends, right? Like Ben, I can text Ben. I could call Ben at 5 in the morning 30 times, and like Ben would wake up at some point, maybe even on the first call, and he'd pick up and he would be
Maybe.
like, what the fuck are you doing? But he also would be like, he probably wouldn't be mad. His first response would not be anger. He would be like, yo, like, are you good? Like, you need something? Like, how's it going? Maybe he'd be upset if I was
I
like,
love
oh, I
this
just called
analogy,
you.
by the way. I love this analogy, by the way. I love where you're going with this.
But it's like true. Like I could
Yeah.
just call him, right? Like I could anytime. I could text him a picture of like my foot and be like, does my foot look weird? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. He's
Yeah.
never going to be mad at me. He could get upset, but we have a lifelong relationship, and that takes time to build. Whereas if I called someone I just met 30 times at 5 a.m., that person is not only going to not pick up the phone and never talk to me again, they're going to tell every single person they know that I am the worst person in the world. Matt called me 30 times. I just met him outside one time. He's absolutely insane. And that's just like not okay. And I think a lot of people are still doing this, and they need to be doing this. And we're just
Yep.
building technology to help that make that possible.
I love it. I love it. Ben, do you have anything that you want to add to that amazing analogy?
I think it speaks for itself, honestly.
No, that
I hope Matt doesn't have to call me too often at 3:22 a.m. Although
or
I will
send
get
you a
texts and
picture
I'll
of
just
his
be like,
foot.
yes, I will ask many questions at that time.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think the Shopify ecosystem is so healthy, and yeah, like
I
I've
will
been part
say,
of yeah.
I'll say on it, it's very different, like a different feeling for us now, because when we first came in 2018, we're asking for advice from, like we knew almost nobody, and we had a couple people, couple friends, a couple that we learned, and we like got introduced to this chain of people, to like Klaviyo and to Justuno and to a couple other companies, and we learned from them. But now I'm getting introductions like several times a week to new companies or companies that are existing ones that are moving into Shopify and looking for advice from us. And it's like I'm trying to pay it forward, but it's also just like a crazy feeling. Like, wow, so we've come like full circle, huh?
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And like I said, hats off to you guys. I think what you guys are building is really awesome. I think, like you said, is that perfect balance between the customer and the merchant, and making sure that's a healthy relationship, and that you're offering those customers what they're hopefully looking for, and you can read their mind to a certain extent, but not being, a pestering asshole to somebody as well at the same time, because it's very easy to cross that line, in my opinion, because how many follow-up emails can you send before somebody's like, dude, unsubscribe? Like, you know what I mean? So you want to make sure to find that medium. No, that I think it's great. I think it's just one of those things that every day, like I wake up and I'm like, even go a product hunt or whatever, like what the hell did somebody invent today? Like, how are they gonna, you know what I mean? So but no, it's really, really awesome. What are the upcoming plans outside of, obviously, the shop quiz is a really, really big thing for you guys at the moment? Do you guys have any kind of I don't know how you guys are with planning. Obviously, some people just like, hey, we're just running the road right now and we'll get there when we get there. But do you guys have any kind of other plans or things that you guys are looking to improve, whether it's your existing products or something new that's coming?
Yeah, for sure. We're planned out. It's like we have a North Star. We know where we're
Right.
going. We have a vision. We are humanizing the online shopping experience through personalization, and that is very broad, but there's a lot of work to do, and somebody has to do it. And so we're focused on that right now. We came out with the shop quiz from Octane.ai a couple months ago. We have a huge surge of Shopify Plus brands that are using it, and every day we're just constantly making improvements to that. People want to be able to use different fonts, to have different layouts, to be able to have different types of logic and rules, and different types of integrations and opt-ins. And we definitely have our hands full in a really good way with just making the shop quiz better
Yeah.
based on everybody's feedback. Like, we have a recharge. There's some recharge stuff will be happening
Right.
at some point, and a lot of other fun things like that. So that's a big part of it. Next year, we have our eyes set on some pretty big announcements that we're working on. Not ready to go explicitly into detail on it yet, but I will say that there's a lot of data that is being collected through the quiz. You can have multiple quizzes for any type of conversation you want to automate. I think a really good loop is onboarding quiz, personalize the customer journey throughout the shopping experience, purchase, post purchase shop quiz, and then there's like a really great feedback loop that can happen with those two quizzes. And then on our platform, we're also synchronizing that with our Messenger product and our SMS product and on our opt-ins product, and then synchronizing it with Klaviyo and our other partners for email. There are a lot of interesting insights that we're finding out that you can learn from this data, and there are a lot of things that you can do to personalize the shopping experience more than just on marketing channels. And that's something we're working towards, taking even further steps towards supporting that. And I think that right now, like I mentioned earlier, I talked about like the luxury sales associate and what you can do in like at a Rolex brand or
Mm-hmm.
a Hermes. And we're trying to bring that level of experience in a scaled way with technology to Shopify brands. And that first step is like making what's possible in retail with a small amount of people possible in an online setting with millions of people. The future for us is that next step of what are things that are actually impossible in physical retail, but are possible in a digital environment. And that's when things get really crazy. And that's what we're working towards.
I love it. I love it. Um, Now I do have to ask, what is your guys' current day-to-day consist of? I know you guys are a team of like 40 or 50 you mentioned. What would you guys say is like, and obviously I'm sure your days are a little bit different, but I'm sure it'd be interesting to people here, primarily a Shopify app, business, company, software technology. Like, what is your day-to-day? And being obviously 100% remote, like most people, but you guys have been doing this for a while. So what does it consist of? Like, what's your Wednesday and Fridays look like, basically?
Well,
Ben, you kick it off.
I mean, that's changed a lot for Matt and I over time is the thing. And it will continue to change over time as founders,
Yeah.
right? When we were in the early days, like year one, we came out with our 2020 playbook this year, right? 425 pages, Octane.ai.com/playbook, everything you ever want to know about personalization, quizzes, Messenger, SMS, how to build everything, lots of expert opinions, right? We did our first playbook. It was like 46 pages. Matt and I were the primary writers of that. I was like doing like moving around, and we had our lead designer helping do design work. Like 2019, we were still pretty involved in like putting together a bunch of playbook, especially Matt. This year, even less so. Like our job was more about coaching. There's definitely and lots of comments and things like that, but there was a whole team of people on the marketing, on the customer success, on the account management side, working on the playbook. And it like, our roles have evolved from like, we're going to go do everything to coaching things. And truthfully, I'm spending more time interviewing people and coaching other members of the team and trying to figure out like where the missing pieces are. And like our like time changes all the time. I think the only consistent is like, there's more meetings that happen when there's more people and there's more requests for outside things. But beyond that, it just changes all the time. But I am enjoying like, switching over to like more coaching overall.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. How about you, Matt?
Yeah. Everything that Ben said. So like most, now we have different, it's not just me, Ben, and Leaf anymore, right? We have the product team, we have the marketing team, we have the sales team. There's lots of different areas, customer support, um, account management. And so most of the time is just making sure that internally everybody's supported and we're not getting in their way. And if they have any questions, we're helping them, and just coaching. That's like a huge part of it. And then I think outside of that, anything that could only be done by a founder, right? And like
Right.
sometimes it starts like that, and then once you do it and it works, you realize that you should bring somebody else on to continue doing it. So I feel like a lot of the time throughout the past couple of years, I'll be like, oh, like I have this thing, I think we should do it. Like there's nobody else on the team that could do it right now, and so I'll start doing it, and then it'll start working, and then bam, I get fired from it, and I don't get to do it anymore. But then somebody else comes on who's even better, and they continue it, and that's how we kind of scale. So that happens constantly. So it's almost like everything you dive into, you almost understand that you're not going to get to continue doing this forever, because eventually we'll bring somebody else in. I specifically, I'm really passionate about product, and that's what I've always been really passionate about. I'm always designing stuff. I got 5 whiteboards around me right now. I can see them all. Just sketching stuff out. Was super involved in deciding to do the shop quiz and how that was going to work and how it needs to work. When we first rolled it out privately, I built 20 shop quizzes for merchants, which I don't do that anymore, but I did it in the beginning because I just wanted to make sure that this was actually the product that we wanted to make. And if I ran into any issues, so I really, there's certain times in the company where I'm just like, that's what I'm doing. I'm just using the product nonstop because this needs to be something that we can really put our stamp on. Right now, we have a lot of people who are making shop quizzes, and they're just discovering so many new things. And it's there's an infinite number of things. It's almost like a dynamic landing page with rules. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's an infinite number of things that you can do with this. And I think we're still in the stage where people are coming in with preconceived notions of, oh, it's going to be an onboarding quiz, and it is, and that's going to
Yeah.
work. But it's a creative tool. It's like Photoshop for conversations for your brand. Like and everything is remembered, and you can use it everywhere. Like it's infinite number of things you can do. And I'm spending a lot of time just talking to the people, whether it's at an agency or an e-commerce brand, who are actually like, hands-on and building these, so that I can kind of geek out, nerd out on this stuff with them. And that's what I'm going to be doing for, the next couple of months, especially through the holiday season, and doing everything I can to, then share that information publicly, like we just did with this 400 plus page playbook.
I love it. I love it. No, that's really awesome. And I do have to ask, how did you when did you decide to jump into the TikTok world? Because when Ben told me that you had a lot of the TikTok stuff that you were doing, I went on and just kind of checked out your thing. Like, when did you decide to do that, and did you do that with like the intention of like, hey, I want to do something with this, or did you just kind of go like, hey, listen, I'm just want to kind of fuck around with this and see what happens?
Yeah. So let's see, when was it? It was like early last year. I was just seeing some numbers that like TikTok had like insane number of people using it. And all day I talk to e-commerce brands, and influencer marketing and social networks are
Yeah.
a big part. Advertising is a big part of e-commerce, and e-commerce brands constantly are talking about Instagram influencers or advertising on Instagram or building up their Instagram profiles. And the reason is because there's so many people who use Instagram. So it's a really great place to market your product. And I thought it was really weird that nobody was talking about TikTok, because TikTok was the number 1 downloaded app in 2018 on the Apple App Store. Massive app. And I was Googling for any marketers talking about TikTok. I went to like event websites and Facebook events to try to figure out if anybody was doing TikTok conferences or TikTok meetups or TikTok speeches. And literally it was zero. There was just nothing. And so I was like, how is this possible that TikTok is
Wow.
so big and nobody's professionally talking about it? And I wonder if it's just because the discrepancy between people who work at e-commerce brands or in a professional capacity, and then the people who are going crazy over TikTok, and maybe just nobody realizes. This is like a weird moment in time. Maybe nobody realizes that this is happening. So they're just not trying to do it. And they still think of TikTok as like, oh, it's that thing that kids use.
Yeah,
which is
dance
like how,
videos or something like that. Yeah.
right. It's like silly. And so once in a while over the like throughout my career, I will write an article, and usually I blog on Medium. I have more subscribers on Medium than Obama, so proud about that.
There you go.
And
Good job,
so I'm
man.
like really, really good on Medium. And once in a while, I'll write a blog post about some sort of new technology I've written, and they usually go very viral, whether it's like Bitcoin or virtual reality, chatbots. I have well over millions of views on an article I wrote about chatbots, and I usually do like the complete guide. And so I was like, okay, I need to communicate to everybody that TikTok is something they should pay attention to. And so let me write the complete guide to TikTok. And usually this takes me a couple months, and I'm going to explain how it works, the algorithm, how it came to be, how like what the opportunity is. And as I started writing it, I thought, wouldn't it be good if I created a TikTok account so that I could, from a firsthand experience, include that in the article? And what if I could really highlight the opportunity of TikTok, because I myself went viral on TikTok. And so I created a TikTok account, and I wanted to do it really clean. And I didn't leverage any of my social media to promote it. I didn't tell anybody that I made this. I didn't put my real name on it. I just naturally, organically, one day was an anonymous account that popped up on TikTok. And over the 2 months that I wrote this article, I got up to 30,000 followers. I got like 1 million views. And then since then, I'm about at 800,000 followers now on TikTok. And I just post
Wow.
these like stick figures or whatever, little drawings. I recently started doing flip books. And now TikTok is something that everybody talks about. Everybody's aware of TikTok. It's obviously had a huge amount of controversy this year, but I think it was last year. I was speaking at the Klaviyo conference, and I was on stage, and there's, I don't know, 1,000+ people in the audience or something. And I talked about TikTok, and I was like, the thing you got to look out for is TikTok. And I even made, if you go back in my TikTok, I made a video where I was on stage, and I got the entire Klaviyo audience to shout out TikTok. And that got like 100,000 views on TikTok. But I know that afterwards, some people were like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But a lot of people were like, TikTok's going nowhere. Like, this is
Right.
stupid. Like, I don't know why you said that. Whereas now, like, there are so many brands that are just crushing it with influencer marketing, TikTok ads, their own TikTok accounts. So yeah, everything was super intended. I also run a newsletter called the4upage.com, and you can go read through my posts. And I kept track of my entire journey to like 800,000 followers, and you can go through all my spreadsheets and my analysis and how I came up with the content I make. Everything was completely data driven with the goal of how viral could I make it.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome, man. That's that was a really interesting story. When I saw that, I was like, ah, that's a clever way of going about it. Yeah, I definitely took a look at your for you page. What is it? Page.
Yeah, so on TikTok, the thing that's unique about TikTok is that when you're dropped in, you're not shown a feed of people you follow. You're shown something called the For You page, which is algorithmically decided videos based on your interests.
Right.
And it's mostly like viral stuff and then some new stuff. And so I put a newsletter up on the4upage.com to reference the TikTok For You page.
I love it. I love it. That's really awesome, man. That's really awesome. I think we covered. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to cover or talk about or anything like that? I mean, I'm open to. I think we covered a lot of great ground here, and I think this is going to be I think a huge value to people who are listening in terms of like how you guys got started and all this other stuff. Is there anything else that you guys want to throw out there into the world of whoever's listening to the podcast?
I mean, if you're interested in having this feedback loop and personalization, go check out Octane.ai.com/playbook for the playbook, which walks through how to incorporate that. And if you want to look into the quiz specifically, go to Octane.ai.com/quiz.
And I'll make sure to drop that into the show notes as well for you guys. So then people could just go
Or
directly and link.
follow me on TikTok
Yeah.
at
There you go.
MattCatBat. I spent an hour trying to find a username that was available, and that was the only thing I could find. But now there's a lot of people who know what MattCatBat is.
I love it.
I mean, Octane.ai.com/playbook. Go. That'll tell you everything you need to know about our product. But also, like Matt's been like focusing on TikTok. I've been putting together panels and interviewing people in the audio app Clubhouse. So we just had the CEO of LVMH. I had like some early fund VC managers. And so I'm especially interviewing like interesting CEOs and experts in e-commerce. I have one coming Monday with the CEO of Cover Effects, which is an Octane.ai customer, and the CMO of B&H Photo, talk about like holiday shipping. And so I'm trying to like spend a little bit more time talking to experts, and like
Love
I'm
it.
also have this platform that I built in Clubhouse to like have those conversations in public. So that's something that everyone can go and join, and at Ben Parr and everything.
Also, if
Awesome.
anybody listening is trying to get in touch with an investor or something like that, Ben knows everybody, and so you should reach out to Ben for sure. Just hit him up at Ben Parr on Twitter.
RIP my inbox.
He'll help you out though. Ben responds, so it won't go into a black hole.
I love it. I love it. No, that's really awesome of you guys. I do want to say for what it's worth, absolutely love your guys' transparency. I love how you guys think about things. You have that product mind state, which I absolutely love, and that's what I like I said, I have a list of million ideas and different things that if somebody shed me like $250,000 tomorrow, I'd be like, I can build all of these things. I just get so excited about product. And there's a few things that we'll be putting out there from our agency. Like we're going to start releasing a lot more product-based stuff and all this. So I absolutely love it. And I feel like we're definitely going to have to do like a part 2 to this, because there's so much stuff that I swear I could have been on here for like 4 more hours, because I just love the state of mind that you guys are in with everything. So thank you guys for all your time. And I really appreciate you guys making the time to be on here, because I like I said, this is one of those things that I saw Ben comment, and I was like, hey, let's get you on here. Like I've seen you pop up on LinkedIn, and you have a lot of the same people, connections with the same people that I do, and all this other stuff. And these are the kind of conversations that I want to lead going forward, is just like organic stuff that comes about. I'm not reaching out to like famous people or any of this other stuff. I just want to make sure that I'm talking to people who actually are running a business or have ideas to bring value to people and all this other stuff. So this is awesome. I really appreciate it, guys.
Z, thank you so much for having us. And now that we've talked for so long, feel free to call Ben and I 30 times at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, I'll send a picture of my foot to somebody.
Good. That's when we know it's serious.
It's gonna happen, isn't it?
I'm just gonna put best friends ?
Yeah, we can do that.
You need 2 feet together then.
Yeah. I love it. Cheers, guys. And we could stay on afterwards just to wrap up, but I'm going to go ahead and end the recording right now. So cool.